This is a paper about assemblages and as the production of subjectivities, and my subtitle is Fat Girl Hiking. As a fat person who often travels with straight-sized friends, I'm often reminded by the tangible affordances of mobilities, by normative gazes, and by the odd little comments of just how incendiary an act it is to travel while fat. But when as a fat person I go alone in nature, well, nature doesn't give a fuck. Next to nature, we're all tiny. This is a paper about assemblages and how humans and non-humans work together to co-produce the subjectivities of fatness and hikerness and place. Let's start with assemblage 1. Some parts of note. I was hiking the Larapinta Trail in the Australian outback in winter of 2016. I had maps, I had trail notes, I had an 8-day route mapped out. I went alone. I had with me my backpack, my tent, a sleeping bag, hiking poles and boots. But other parts of the assemblage are these. I wasn't camping at the trailheads because I was sick of the comments I was hearing from other hikers, strangers. Comments like, "Are you training for the Larapinta Trail? Don't you think you're being a bit irresponsible? You know this is a really tough walk, right? Didn't you train for this? It's just so amazing seeing people like you out on the trails. Yeah, a guy I met did this trail. Kind of kick-started a big weight loss effort for him after that. Over it. So I stopped camping at the trailheads and I started pouring in lots more water so that I could camp out in the wilderness by myself. But the trailheads were where the water tanks are. And if not for these comments, would I have needed this much extra water? Have a look.
Good morning. This is Waterfall Gorge. I don't know how much of it you can see there. And the reason I am this disgustingly sweaty is I've just walked about 1 kilometre up that part of the gorge, which as you can see is not part of the main trail, which goes that way. And the reason I walked up there without pack, which was lovely, was to pick up water. Now there's not supposed to be any water in this part of the trail. Let me show you the water that I got. It's so disgusting. This is going to be my water for today. I knew there was no water here. I hiked in yesterday with 7 litres. Not enough, still got 1.5 litres, but not much more. So this is going to be filtered and that'll be my water for today. Yeah, so this is Waterfall Gorge. Heading to Ormiston today, and then I'm going to have a shower. Good morning.
Let me show you another assemblage.
I'm really proud of myself because I came up all these rocks just now. Big scramble. Whew. What a view, what a place, what a feeling. Fuck, so good. It's 8 in the morning. I'm in Arches National Park, hiking by myself on the Primitive Trail, which is part of the Devil's Garden. And yeah, it's cold. It's like about 2 or 3 degrees, but it's beautiful. The light's amazing. I'm really unfit. I'm really fat. And I'm doing it anyway, and I feel really good.
Let's look at the next one. This is assemblage 3.
There are few things as good as coffee in a forest. But one thing is almost as good as a coffee in a forest is a coffee in a forest after a night out camping in that forest. In a hammock, by a lake. It's pretty good. So, yeah.
In each of these, I want to problematize the idea of my relationship with my body and my fact of being out on the hiking trails. I'm not there in spite of my body. I'm there because of my body. My body is the only interface I will ever have with which to engage with the world. And although my fat body is not a typical hiker body, my body took me here to those places. As in the first one, the fact of my fat hiker body meant I had to hike differently. I had to not camp with the sheeple at the trailhead, and I instead had to go out into the middle of nowhere to feel happy and comfortable away from the chatter and the nonsense. In the second one, I was hiking alone, feeling that I was unfit, but feeling amazing. And sometimes, as in the third one there, my fat body is just not that relevant. But I want to tell you a story about an assemblage of travel and hiking where my body, my fat body, was relevant, but not in the way that you might think. Let me tell you another story. Because this time I want to introduce the idea that perhaps it is safer to hike alone. This is a story about hiking with my friend Matthew. That's us on a different hike. But we're pretty good hiking buddies. And this is Assemblage 4. We were hiking in Wallamai National Park, January 2014, so it's the middle of summer, it's hot, it's snaky. I'm hiking with Matthew. We had backpacks, tent, sleeping bags, hiking poles, boots, the usual things, maps and trail notes. However, the trail had been damaged by bushfires. A few years earlier, the bushfires had been through and had burned out where the trail had been not even marked but cut. And so the trail had overgrown enormously. And now getting through with the trail notes from before the fires, there was a lot of off-trail hiking, a lot of bushwhacking, a lot of wayfinding. And it was tough, it was really hard. Now, what's interesting, I think, in this story is the complexity of the interpersonal power relations. And I think fatness here has an interesting bearing on this hiker assemblage. Let me show you. So before we get into the story, let me just explain to you what bushwhacking is. Bushwhacking is walking off trail, and like this illustration shows, cutting through undergrowth or bushes or trees sometimes where there is no path that's clear. So you've got to make the path as you go. Now, obviously doing that involves getting your feet cut up and your legs cut up. These are my legs after bushwhacking, just so you get a sense of what it is like. Now, that's relatively mild bushwhacking, but that is what it looks like. And so this trip with Matthew, we were in Wallamai National Park on the, it's a trail down to the Collow River. And it's about a 12-kilometre hike in up to a ridge and then down to the river, and we had planned to camp at the river and then back up the ridge the next day and out the way we came. So an out and back over 2 days. We had camping gear with us. However, this is the complexity of the interpersonal relationship here. I'm feeling this. I'm slow, I'm fat, I'm 8 years older than Matthew, and I don't want to let him down. I don't want to ruin his hike. If I'm slow, he'll judge me, and maybe he won't want to walk with me again. I don't really know him all that well, so I can't really take that risk. But yeah, this is really tough because the bushwhacking and, you know, the trail notes make it seem easy, but they were written before the bushfires came through. Wow. So I've got this. I can do this, but gosh, it's tough. And I can't suggest that we turn back because I don't want to be the one that ruins our trip today. And in the meantime, Matthew's thinking, and I know this because we've spoken about it since, I'm fit and fast, but holy shit, this is really tough. So much bushwhacking. But look, if she's doing it and she's fine, I can't be the one that suggests we turn back. Because if she can do it, why the hell can't I? And I'm feeling, well, he seems to be having no trouble at all. So come on, Fiona, you can do this. Just walk, just push on through. And in the meantime, he sees the outside performance of me pushing on through and feels, well, she's having no trouble at all, so I can do this too. Come on, just walk. And so in not communicating about how difficult we were each finding it, we each pushed each other on way past probably where we should have been, with the result that we reached the ridge 12 kilometres in, completely exhausted. But the ridge where the trail is supposed to come down, which looks like this, after the bushfires, that area was all overgrown. And so although there was still a trail down to the river, which was about 400 metres, I think, down from the ridge, it was impassable. It was, we couldn't get down to the river. So we were in this very difficult position where we had done this difficult 12 kilometres through the bushwhacking all day. Night was starting to fall. We were on the ridge. We could see the river. It was so close, but we just couldn't get down to it. And so that's us sitting. You can see how overgrown there the trail down to the river is, and that was just a small part of it. And we were stuck. We were stuck. We couldn't get down to the river to get water. We were out of water because we'd been bushwhacking all day in the heat. Our plan was to camp down at the river, and we couldn't get down there. So we couldn't get down, but also we couldn't easily get back because we were 12 kilometres of bushwhacking in. So we were pretty stuck. And as you can see from that picture, pretty worried as well. So these are the parts of the assemblage. It's almost nightfall, we're out of water, we can't get down to the ridge to the river, the bush land has overgrown back over what was the safe trail down. We're 12 kilometres in, bushwhacking for 6 hours, we're worried, no, not relief, not at all. We're worried, we're stressed, our legs are scratched up, and we called 000. We mainly called 000 really to tell the cops where we were. And then, of course, the cops said, well, we're not leaving you out there, we're coming to get you. So this has nothing to do with fatness, except it really does. If I had been less embarrassed to admit how hard I was finding it, perhaps I would have been more honest with Matthew. And if he hadn't been reading me through his reading of my body, and its relative hikerness to his, perhaps he would have been a bit more honest with me. Anyway, here's the upshot of what happened next. A very short video, but yeah, I think you can see what happened next. And this was Matthew's social media post about it the next day. I rode in a helicopter for the first time ever yesterday as my friend Phiona and I were winched off a mountainside in Wallamai National Park by police helicopter as night fell. The area we were bushwalking in had been badly burned out by bushfires in October of the year before, although trail info from New South Wales Park Service was badly outdated and gave no indication of this. After a very long day of bushwhacking to find the trail, which appeared and disappeared and was only very sporadically signposted, we were dehydrated and out of water and found ourselves 400 metres up on a ridgeline, the point at which our map indicated a trail descending to the river, only the trail was no longer there, and every route to the river, which was less than a kilometre away, blocked by cliffs and extremely steep scree slopes. Though being winched out by helicopter wasn't exactly what we were looking for when we called 000 to let people know where we were, I feel both thankful and relieved. The helicopter ride was also pretty cool, which it absolutely was. So this comment of, do you think you're being a bit irresponsible? I want to complexify that and say fatness and hiking are complex in ways that we don't really realise. That it's, I think, untrue to say that being a fat hiker is the dangerous aspect of hiking. I think one of the dangerous aspects of hiking, from my perspective, is letting the assemblages and narratives take over and produce a subjectivity of hiking that is different from the one that I feel comfortable with. So this is, I guess, a message to say that fatness and hiking are connected, but they're probably not connected in quite the way that you might think. So next to nature, we are all tiny, but even when we're alone in nature, complex assemblages surround us and produce our subjectivities. This includes fat girls hiking. Thanks.